Welcome back everyone to another episode of Sneaker Updates. This will be Sneaker Updates number 93. If you happen to be new here, feel free to subscribe and enable post notifications. This way you're always 100% updated on every single hype sneaker. Essentially, in this series we go over every sneaker that received an update throughout the week. For example, some of those may potentially include some Off-White, Jordans, Yeezys, and more. But with that short intro out of the way, why don't we jump right into the first update. Kicking it off for today, the Cactus Jack DIOR are releasing very soon, specifically on July 13th. While I'm not sure if this applies to everybody who has reservations, those with reservations that I've spoken to are said to be picking up on the 14th. The DIOR website alludes to some other drop that requires updates, so potentially an online one as well. Either that or it's just intended to spam your email with marketing. Most likely though, there will be an online drop to some degree. It seems to be a raffle, but they might just send you a purchase link through that email that anyone can access. We will see, of course. Since it is not a Nike product, I cannot get you guys too much precise info, unfortunately, but I would suggest watching their social media and signing up for the emails, which will likely be sent super late as usual with these terrible brands. The retail on the two sneakers that most of you guys are familiar with should be $1,450, although I have seen other numbers as well, so I'm not sure if this includes tax or not. Regardless, it's evidently very expensive. Since it's not Nike, I don't know the stock, but demand is very high on these, of course. Will the supply and demand discrepancy be great enough to outweigh the massive retail? We really can't tell with such little info since this is the first collaboration between the two, but I would say it is very possible given that some of the non-Cactus Jack collaboration DIOR pairs are well in the 1,000 range and they are seeing some sales at those rates. Of course, it's a risk to reward thing and the choice is absolutely yours. Now, those pairs that I just mentioned are for the B713 sneakers, and it turns out that there are multiple colorways of these, more than what we initially saw in fact. Not only that, but along with the rest of the massive collection, it looks like there are even more footwear silhouettes that we haven't seen before. First, we have an earth tone sandal with lots of Cactus Jack inspired details. Then we will also be seeing a B23 Converse dropping too, and on top of that we have another B713 in less vibrant colors. This collaboration was initially teased all the way back in June of 2021, but because of the tragedy at the Astroworld Festival, it was postponed indefinitely. That was until a few days ago when they did announce this collaboration once again. I guess they saw that Nike was back to releasing collaborations with Travis, which essentially gave them the PR green light. Speaking of Nike and Travis, as we transition into our Jordan updates for today, may I remind you that we have the Travis Scott Cactus Jack Jordan 1 Low Reverse Mocha finally dropping on July 21st for $150. Of course, these will be extremely profitable with an incredible margin, just like the prior colorway. I'll post a how to cop guide on these soon too, so make sure you do subscribe and enable post notifications for that. Also, follow my Twitter for urgent updates such as shock drops, raffles, etc. Keith Adam 10, and of course that goes for any sneaker. Moving on to Jordan updates, we got our first look at the Shelf Life Jordan 2 Low. These will be dropping this December for $200. I'm not expecting these to be very profitable, maybe lunch money at best. Nike's really trying hard to push the Jordan 2, but there's just only so much you could do to help a horse with 3 legs win a race. The same goes for the Jordan 2 218. We got our first look courtesy of Sneaker Knockers. These should also be dropping in December for $200. Unfortunately, I don't have high expectations for these either. Potentially a lunch money opportunity, but not much more than that. Moving on, it looks like the Jordan 1 Starfish will be dropping in October for $170. Given how close this colorway looks to the very hyped Shattered Backboard 2.0s, I could certainly see these doing very well enough to be profitable. Despite Jordan 1 hype not being great lately, this colorway does hold solid potential. The orange, rather than the black swoosh though, may limit some of the hype though, unfortunately. Then we got our first look at the Jordan 5 Gore-Tex, courtesy of Z Sneakerheads. These drop in December for $200. I'd mostly just expect these to be personals though. Moving on, the Jordan 4 Black Canvas should be releasing in October for $210. At best, I only see these being a lunch money opportunity with a poor margin. The colorway had a lot of potential in itself, but the materials may turn a lot of people off. I wish they just used nubuck on them personally. Let me know what you guys think. And of course, the high retail does not help at all on these. Then we got a detailed look at the Jordan 9 Fire Red, courtesy of Brandon Starr. These drop on November 5th for $200. I'm mostly just expecting these to be personals unless you have a local buyer like most 9s recently. Moving on, it looks like the Jordan 3 Fire Red will be dropping on September 10th for $210. While these are a classic, at best I'm only expecting lunch money with a subpar margin on these, not only for the high retail, but if you were in the game when the 2013 pair dropped, you would remember that this pair was actually quite a brick. Then again, the game in general has had many more bricks back then in comparison to now. Even though the market seems to be low right now, trust me, it was way worse back then. The bonus is that these new ones do have the Nike Air on them, thankfully. Personally, I'm just excited to get a personal pair of these. Let me know if you guys are too. Then the Jordan 1 Yellow Toe Taxi will finally be dropping on September 24th for $170. Remember these? We talked about them like 2 years ago or so. Yeah, after tons of delays, they're finally actually dropping. Very exciting to see. I am expecting this colorway to be profitable with a good margin. Definitely drop to look forward to, and I'm hoping to get a personal pair as well. Moving on to March 8th, we should be getting the Jordan 2 Low UNC to Chicago drop for $160, mock-up courtesy of Z Sneakerheads. With the retail being low on this colorway, you might be able to make a little bit of lunch money with a subpar to poor margin, but not too much considering it is a Jordan 2 nonetheless. Then on December 22nd for $180, we should be seeing the Jordan 1 Twist 2.0 drop. Considering how much the prior Twist pair has increased in value, I'd expect at least lunch money to small profit on these, but nowhere near what the current Jordan 1 Twist is going for right now. Then on November 12th for $180, the Jordan 1 Gorge Green should be dropping. At best, I'd only expect lunch money with a poor margin on these, similar to what we initially saw on the Pine Green ones, not what they're at now. Moving on, it is now confirmed that we will also be seeing grade school pairs of the Jordan 1 Chicago Reimagined, which is releasing on October 29th for $180 if you're not aware. This is the drop that I'm probably most excited for this entire year. Not only is it arguably a retro of the most classic sneaker of all time, but I'm also a big fan of the vintage 85 vibes that they added onto these. I think it worked really well on these. I know some people have been not too fond of it. It's been quite controversial. Personally, I think it works out very well on this classic colorway. Of course, expect the men and grade school to both be very profitable with an incredible margin. Obviously, you're going full throttle on this sneaker, whether you want it for personal or not. Moving on, the Jordan 4 Seafoam will be dropping for $200 on February 24th, mock-up courtesy of Z Sneakerheads. Most likely, these will be another lunch money opportunity with a subpar margin. Moving on from those, the Jordan 11 Cherry will be dropping on December 10th for $225. Despite that high retail like we always see on 11s, I do still believe that there will be sufficient demand on these for lunch money with a subpar margin. Personally, I've been hoping for a while that they would release this mid version of this colorway, so I'm really excited that we're actually getting to see these. And finally, for Jordan updates for today, the Jordan 3 White Cement Reimagined will be releasing on March 11th for $210. This is definitely one of the sneakers I'm most excited for in 2023, and I'm expecting these to be very profitable with a good margin as well. This is one of the most iconic sneakers, right up there with the Chicago Jordan 1s, and now we have them returning with the vintage vibe, which I'm honestly a fan of, just like the Chicago 1s, and of course, the Nike Air on the back that everybody loves. Moving on to Yeezy updates now, the Yeezy 350 Beluga is returning in the new AliExpress colorway. Obviously joking, this is the dark Beluga colorway, very creative from Mr. West. Honestly, I am a fan of the colorway and might get a personal, but it does bother me that they literally look like really bad fakes of Belugas. Regardless, I am expecting these to be profitable enough for lunch money with a subpar to poor margin, but not much more considering how low the Beluga reflectives are. Moving on, we got our first look at the Yeezy Knit Runner Faded Azure, which will be dropping in late fall for $200. While these do look pretty ugly, they are typically very limited and thus do have solid potential for profitability with a good margin. Next, we got our very first look at the Yeezy 700 V3 Sea Salt, which will be dropping in September for $210. Like most recent 700 V3s, I'd expect these to mostly just be personals, lunch money, large sizes in the best case scenario if you have no tax. And the same goes for the Yeezy 350 Compact Slate Bone, which should be dropping in October for $230. We also got a detailed look at the Yeezy 350 Granite, which drops sometime in late 2022 for $230. Yeezys with the stripe tend to garner more demand than usual, hence I would expect at least small profit with a subpar to decent margin on these. With Yeezys now out of the way, let's move on to some miscellaneous sneakers. First, we got our first look at the ANT Dunk Low, which should be dropping sometime later this year for $110. I would expect these to be profitable with a decent to good margin. We also got our first look at the A&M Dunk Low, which should be dropping later this year as well for $110. Similarly, I would expect these to be profitable with a decent to good margin. We also got our first look at the entire HUF SB Dunk Low collection, which drops later this year for $110 each. I would expect each of these to be profitable with a good margin. Moving on, we have two more Union Cortez colorways dropping July 21st for $130. I would expect these to do slightly worse than the last colorways that we just recently saw. In other words, lunch money at best with a subpar to poor margin, unfortunately. Anyway, that will conclude it for today's updates. You can feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed, or perhaps if you learned a thing or two. Subscribe and enable post notifications notifications. This way you stay 100% updated on all hyped releases. Also, be sure to check out the links in the description below for reliable, fast, residential proxies. Furthermore, you can feel free to follow Endurance on Twitter for updates on restocks or key giveaways, and the same goes for Gargantua if you want to keep up with the progress or restocks. Last but not least, make sure to follow Keith Adam 10 and Personals for you. This way you guys stay updated on all urgent info like I was discussing today. With that though, I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day.